as you heard, I'm Joyce Jenkins, if I remember correctly, and this is the Poetry Flash reading series, and we are absolutely thrilled today to have Yiskah Rosenfeld. Tasting Flight, and Alison Luterman. Reading from her brand new collection, Hard Listening. And they both read in our series before, and we're just thrilled to have you back. And you're welcome back anytime. We just love to have you. We have copies for purchase after the reading and signing. Copies are also available at bookshop.org/shop/poetryflash should you want to get it online later and you don't want to get it from Jeff Bezos. You know, it's up to you. And if you do that, a small portion of your purchase will benefit Poetry Flash. But do take advantage of looking at these beautiful books here today. The video of this event and all of our events are posted on the Poetry Flash YouTube channel. To join which is kind of fun and goofy, and it's quite a record of some of the events that we've put on. To join our email event list, see poetryflash.org or sign up here on our analog clipboard. And you need to know nothing about computers to put your email on there. Check out poetryflash.org for reviews and future events. A new wave of content will appear later this week. It's just been a wild month. Keeping this series going is a little like Toad's Wild Ride and The Wind in the Willows. As always, we are deeply grateful for any support you might be moved to offer, especially this year. To visit our donation page, go to poetryflash.org/give. Thanks to Art House Gallery and impresario Harold Adler, who ran home to rescue his chickens who had escaped from their coop. Which is just crazy, but what are you going to do? Farms in Berkeley? Anyway, and thanks to Stephen Bunza and Rosalinda Monroy for their help today. And our first reader will be Yiskah Rosenfeld. And again, an absolute delight to have you here, Yiskah. Her debut full-length book of poems is Tasting Flight. Joy Ladin said, rooted in the origin myths of Genesis, when the divine stepped out of itself onto the slick, dark lid of otherness. Tasting Flight unflinchingly questions, complicates, and celebrates what it means to be a woman and to be deeply, imperfectly human. And boy, do I relate to that. Yiskah is also the author of Naked Beside Fish, a beautiful ekphrastic chapbook that we have here today. Among her honors are the Anna Davidson Rosenberg Prize, Reuben Rose Memorial Prize, 2025 Prism Review Award, and a 2023 Frontier Poetry Roots and Roads Prize. Her work has been published in over 50 publications, including the Seattle Review, Rattle, Slippery Elm, and elsewhere, as well as in anthologies such as Wild Gods, an anthology of ecstatic poetry, and Yentl's Revenge, the next wave of Jewish feminism. She lives in the Bay Area and has taught workshops on feminism, spirituality, and creativity. Please welcome Yiskah Rosenfeld.
Thank you, Joyce. trust myself with timing, so I'm laying things out. So I was going to thank Howard, but of course he's tending to animals. Last time I read here, about a year ago, a little more than that, my daughter came with me, she's 15, and she and Howard bonded afterwards. I don't remember this, but they bonded afterwards about his rats and squirrel, and now I hear there's chickens too. So, and thank you so much, Joyce. You work tirelessly to keep poetry alive in the Bay Area, and you've done so since I moved here in the early 90s, and it was already going on.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so it's been important to me my whole poetry life in the Bay Area, and I'm really grateful to you and Richard. Thank you. And I am thrilled to be reading with Alison Luterman, who is a poet I greatly admire. I'm a fan, really. She writes the kind of poems that when I read them, I think, that's the kind of poetry I aspire to write. So this is really exciting, and I'm glad I'm reading first, so don't get too nervous. I'm gonna read a poem from Naked Beside Fish, and this is the book that is kind of modeled after a museum exhibit. There's even a gift shop. So I don't know, are there any poets here today or writers? A few at most. So then you might be familiar when you submit a poem somewhere that there are always these poetry submission guidelines, and they might be what font you're allowed to use, how long the poem can be, whether you can't use foul language, whether you're encouraged to use foul language. So I decided to write my own ideas of what I thought a poem should be. Poetry submission guidelines. And the painting this is connected to is a little hard to tell, but it starts with a quote from John Cage about Robert Rauschenberg. The white paintings were airports for the lights, shadows, and particles. Poetry submission guidelines. They should be the color of a loved one's shadow, painted on a clear sky at dusk, etched and chiseled from stone, each word a day's work. They should be students of blood and wind before they graduate to paper. They should be edible. They should read themselves to each other at night, rub off when pressed page to page, run like a stampede of mice, a milk river between stanzas. They should envy our three-dimensional shapes, need us as much as we need them, let their corners grow wild, overgrown with white moss. Silent reflections for lights and dust, as our mouths will one day be quieted, belonging to the damp earth as they never belonged in us. They should unknot themselves, word by tangled word, and let us down, tenderly down, gently down, tenderly in the end. So we live in just unbelievably difficult times, unbearably difficult times. And I'm grateful for poets who can write poetry about what's happening in the world that helps us to heal. I know there are a couple of poets that I recognize here who do that. I don't, I'm terrible at it. But what I do think I do well, I think I'm good at writing about how it feels to live in very hard, difficult times. Just have to find it. This poem is from Tasting Flight. It's eluding me right now. Okay, 1 second. Told you I was nervous about reading before Alison Luterman. Okay, here we go. All these gaps. You can slow the day down, but you can't stop it. I've tried, sitting in the red cafe with fingers of jazz running up and down my brass ribcage, thinking of all the ways to be touched that I am not. I am searching for some kind of consistency, proof that if I hold out my hand, someone will put something in it, even a hand of their own. I'm riding my way through the day to hold it back, through the closed-tip flowers and the green stem widening in the beaded glass as the bright morning pushes through stucco of buildings across the street. I can write dense like this, but who will want it? Who will want me now with all these gaps? And who dressed me this way when I feel so otherwise? Who arranged us in this order at our little round tables with all the windows and mirrors? What am I humming to the world that keeps it away? Is this the usual hurt, or is it unique? The only hurt of its kind. Meanwhile, I keep willing myself upright, long enough to remember why we do it this way, why forward is the required direction.
Wow.
The title of Tasting Flight is kind of a play on what I think of as the superpowers of two women, both claiming the spot of the first woman ever, Eve in the Garden of Eden, the Torah and the Bible, and Lilith, who is seen as the woman who preceded Eve and who doesn't appear exactly in the Torah, although I can show you where she might, but is mostly in the commentaries. And both of these two women have gotten a bad rap, right? Lilith refused to bow down to Adam. She was created equal to Adam, refused to bow down, or subject herself. You can read that any way you want. And she flew out of the Garden of Eden using the name of God, the unnameable secret name of God. So to me, Lilith's superpower is flight and refusing to be anything less than what she is, even though she had to sacrifice leaving, being a part of our society. Eve, on the other hand, also I think is powerful. Her bad rap is she was seen as like the dumb blonde, which I don't agree with as someone who was blonde. And she's seen as someone who was just tricked by the snake. But I saw that differently. So her power is the power of taste. Eve's confession. As if I could speak, having been given no language, only desire, wanting only the power to name what I want. I was born from the side, and this is how I entered all rooms, shuffling, apologetic, peripheral. Without a center, I quickly learned how circles work, how they steer you around the core of things, clinging to peripheries. How easy it is to hide so far from beginnings and always arriving at the same place, only more full, flustered, heavy with secrets and a thin film of darkness, which I also learned is not the same as sin. It was his shape that drew me, round in body and logic, our thoughts encircling, a question of dialogue, not commandment. Don't judge me. What you call falling was the closest I've come to pure statement. I brought us into the world out of desire, not language, and it was worth the risk. After the garden, I bore our son. From the center of myself, I bore our son, and I named him.
Wow.
Is that the whole poem?
That's the, who said that? That's the whole poem. Thank you, you can snap. I'm a big fan of that awkward silence between poems. I actually really enjoy that, so no need to clap, but thank you. So I'm going to read a poem about my father, who is no longer with us. Where is it? Okay. Sorry, usually I have these little sticky notes, but I didn't quite get them. Okay. My father. A lesson in fractions. My father cuts the last square of casserole in half and eats. He cuts the half in half and eats again, repeating this compulsive act like a school teacher demonstrating an immutable mathematical truth. Master of division, of less than, he moves in measured bites in the infinite direction of small, while my mother wishes the meal would go on, table expanding, leaf after leaf into the cosmos, large enough for children and grandchildren, dead parents and grandparents, her sweet overflowing kugel of a heart. Meanwhile, my father has now whittled the square to a crumb, which he flattens with his knife into two halves, one of which he lifts on his finger and eats. There are starving children in Europe, his mother said, and my father, ever obedient, can't let leftovers alone. To this day, can't stop until he's licked the table clean. Still, he never takes the last piece. Small rebellion against an equation stunning in its inevitable conclusion. A starving child in Europe will have one less Brussels sprout because a 10-year-old boy in Oregon did not eat his. And so he halves and halves, dutifully eating, seditiously bequeathing a crumb of solidarity to all other children of immigrants, meticulously, unconsciously sacrificing the remains to the god of waste. My father, wearing the same jeans he wore in high school, still that thin and that frugal, sits quietly at the dinner table and in sly, precisely executed strokes of the butter knife commits his one selfish act. Now, I'm going to read a new poem. This poem came after the books came out, or came to me after the books came out, and it was a finalist this year for the Steve Coet Prize. But I guess it was published in their anthology, but technically it really hasn't been published. Let me see. took only one page. Okay. This poem is for, I would say, anyone who has ever tried to grow a vegetable garden or a teenager. Zucchini. A mere 30 feet from the couch where I eat from a torn bag of chips, you grow adjacent to my bad behavior. After days of neglect, your fruit, my daughter tells me you are fruit, have burst and lengthened like balloons about to be twisted into swords or giraffes. Blossoms flipped inside out to drink the rain. When I stay inside all day in pajamas, scour my phone for any crumb of news with a hint of justice, just a lick of good, and fail, you grow. When I watch reel after reel, my ungreen thumb tender from scrolling, in which you are fried or seasoned or scooped and made into goat cheese balls, you grow. And when I pad barefoot into star-salted dark, finely twisting the squeaky faucet well after midnight, and accidentally turn the spray past mist to jet. As earlier, I aimed my words too harshly at my daughter, herself long and thin, delicate and strong. Even then, you grow. It is here in the unlit garden, so late the Big Dipper tilts rakishly over the roof, that I love my daughter most. Under stars she never sees. While I count the beans that escaped whatever insect ate every leaf, lean down to let the peppers swing like earrings and the tomatoes be the plants and moons they believe themselves to be, she sleeps in her room in the dark with her door shut. Remember when she couldn't? I'd sweep the room with a flashlight for monsters, pretend to confuse blowing raspberries with kisses, crack the door as I left. This much? Less. This much? Less. This? No more, Mom, more. Now she sleeps alone in the empty house, right through my fiercest love for her, my uncaged constellation of love, my take off my skin and my bones kind of love, growing, growing in the dark. I can do one more poem, I think. We have time for one more poem. Let's see what I got here. Okay, I'll read a poem again from Naked Beside Fish. This is, in fact, the gift shop poem that I mentioned before. It's not technically an ekphrastic poem about, written in connection to a painting, but it is about paint. And this poem was actually inspired by a contest where they gave you the first line, some Typishly magazine. They give you a first line, and it was a challenge. They would pick one of the poems that were submitted. So mine was published there, and because I was borrowing from somebody else's line, the poem isn't exactly true, but none of my poems are exactly true. And there are parts of this poem that are very true, including a strong desire to repaint my kitchen, which has not yet been repainted. Paint chips. A stack of paint chips in sandstone, lemon, and cream spreads across the kitchen counter like a tarot reading. Paint the kitchen sandstone, and the house will sell. Lemon, and our cupcakes will rise fluffy and light. Cream, and there will be sex on the countertops. Late night conversations at the table with 2 mouths for each strawberry. More hope than our ravenous appetites for egg rolls can satiate. This is how paint chips will save us. Better than lottery tickets. Better than cash. The kitchen won't be so tired, propping its 60s self up to groove to the olive green walls and brown tiles. I won't be so tired, propping up the self I used to be against too many near-expired cans of soup, crushed boxes of unfinished Girl Scout cookies, the one dying plant, the 3 1/3 full liquid soap dispensers, all the teas, but a fresh coat of lemon, a touch of cream on the cabinets, sandstone to take my clown fall of a life seriously. These colors whisper, I could be someone, or better yet, nobody, the disappeared host of a dinner party. What no one tells you, it isn't the color you choose. It's the act of dip and roll, stretch of arms like you're waving to someone great, being worn out at the end of the day from hard work and not from its lack. Still, what shade will it be? Sandstone? Lemon? Cream? I won't keep you in suspense. You can touch my knee as you reach for the Cool Whip. Stay until morning. Make Jackson Pollock designs on the plates under sunny side up eggs and toast. Stay longer if you want, until the sweet cream fades to ivory, until we decide together on a new shade of blue. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Thank you, Yiskah. Okay. Now, I am absolutely delighted to introduce Alison Luterman. Her new collection here, Hard Listening, poems about learning to sing during the pandemic to collaborate with her musician husband. And this work celebrates the feminine in song. Feminine is woven all the way through it, and music. Mirabai Starr says, Alison Luterman is one of my favorite poetic voices. I eat her poetry like buttered bread, and it goes straight into my depleted spiritual bloodstream. Alison's previous books include the wonderful See How We Almost Fly, Desire Zoo, Feral City, and The Largest Possible Life. Her poems have appeared in The Sun, the Berkeley Review, Slipstream, Tattoo Highway, and on the Library of Congress website, Poetry 180. Her work has been featured in Poetry in Motion posters on mass transit in the Bay Area and Portland, Oregon, which is a very cool thing. She has also published many personal essays and feature articles and has written several plays. She writes frequently about her Oakland neighborhood, social justice, personal relationships, urban wilderness, and the uses of art, especially poetry and theater. And we're just delighted to have you with us today. Alison Luterman, give her a warm welcome.
Thank you so much, Joyce. That was so sweet. Thank you. Yeah, just a little higher. Thanks so much. Great. And Yiskah, that was beautiful. I loved your work. Thank you. It's funny and very relatable. Extremely. My father also eats as if it were his job. I think they're a similar generation. Thanks so much for that kind introduction, and thank you all for showing up. I'll just get to it. As Joyce said, a lot of these poems deal with music, with singers, with singing, and a lot of them just deal with the last 5 years that we've all lived through, including the pandemic and the election and all the stuff. So I'll start with the very first poem in the book, which is called Access Road. Access Road. I don't know if other people feel like there's a life running alongside their so-called real life, like an access road runs alongside the main highway. It's funkier, lonelier. You didn't expect to find yourself on this one-lane frontage path. You kept thinking you'd get on the freeway any minute now, where you fondly imagined yourself doing 80, 90, hurtling down the untrammeled autobahn of free will. That was the life you thought would be yours when you were young, and everything seemed laid out as at a picnic with red gingham tablecloths. But in your fantasies, you neglected to factor in the ants crawling up your legs, the way they tickle and sting, or the spilled juice and crumbled potato chips, and your beautiful mother, young again and strong, yet anxious and discontent amid all that messy beauty, because she too was always calibrating how reality didn't measure up to the story. So you've inherited her dilemma. What else is new? And evening is drawing nigh, and you are still on that access road, which, as it turns out, is going to the same place the main road was headed all along. Yeah. So, and then, I did mention the election. So that was, I think we all remember kind of what we were doing and how we were feeling those fraught days beforehand and that fraught evening. This is called Holding Vigil. I was getting a lot of texts from friends and relatives and people who were rightfully anxious about the election, and I was the cockeyed optimist who was reassuring everybody, oh, she's going to win, it's whatever. Do not come to me for political predictions, because I'm wrong. And this is, my cousin was one of the people writing me about it. It's called Holding Vigil. My cousin asks if I can describe this moment, the heaviness of it, like sitting outside the operating room while someone you love is in surgery, and you're on those awful plastic chairs eating flaming Doritos from the vending machine, which is the only thing that seems appealing to you, dinner-wise, waiting for the moment when the doctor will come out in her scrubs and face mask, which she'll pull down to tell you whether your beloved will live or not. That's how it feels as the hours tick by and everyone I care about is texting me with the same cold lump of dread in their throat, asking if I'm okay, telling me how scared they are. I suppose in that way, this is a moment of unity. The fact that we are all waiting in the same hospital corridor for the same patient who is on life support, and we're asking each other, will he wake up? Will she be herself? And we're taking turns holding vigil, as families do, and bringing each other coffee from the cafeteria, and some of us think she's going to make it, while others are already planning what they'll wear to the funeral, which is also what happens at times like these. And I tell my cousin, I don't think I can describe this moment. Heavier than plutonium, but on the other hand, in the grand scheme of things, I mean the whole sweep of human history, a soap bubble, because empires are always rising and falling and whole civilizations die. They do. They get wiped out. This happens all the time. It's just a shock when it happens to your civilization, your country, when it's someone from your family on the respirator, and I don't ask her how she's sleeping or what she thinks about when she wakes at 3 a.m, because she's got 2 daughters, and that's the thing. It's not just us older people. Forget about us. We had our day, and we burned right through it. Gasoline, fast food, cheap clothing. But right now I'm talking about the babies, and not just the human ones, but also the turtles and owls and white tigers, the redwoods, the ozone layer, the icebergs, for the love of God. Every single blessed being on the face of this earth is holding its breath in this moment. And if you're asking, can I describe that, cousin? Then I've got to say no. No one could describe it. We all just have to live through it, holding each other's hands. So that was written right before the election. And yeah, sadly, it was very true. I think my poem knew more than I did, because I was outwardly a cockeyed optimist, but I think the poem knew. And this poem is called Hard Listening. My husband, as Joyce said, is a musician. We have pianos in our house, multiple pianos, and plural, and he tunes them himself. In this case, he was tuning the Baby Grand. It's called Hard Listening, the title poem of the book. He's tuning the piano, listening hard. Plink, plink, and then silence while he considers, then a tiny pop, scritch, pop, as he adjusts something, then back to the plinking again. We've had a heat wave, so everything's gone flat. The strings, my appetite for life. Come winter, it'll all contract with cold and sharpen again, and next spring he'll be back at it with his tuning wrench and fork and the stop clip and the little rubber mutes. I am listening to the intensity of his listening. 18 years together, and we still work to hear the wounds under the words. To listen purely the way he is now, every cell of his body quivering with attention as he leans into the upraised lid, closing his eyes when the softest hammers vibrate. So, and as Joyce mentioned, there's a series of poems in here, they're kind of sprinkled through the book, that are like homages to various women singers that I was listening to. I was learning how to sing. It was, when I hear a vocalist, any vocalist of any gender, but especially the women, I'm really listening for like, what are they doing? How are they getting that sound? You know, what's the, I'm watching them. I'm saying, oh, she's opening up in the back of her throat. Oh, she's putting it into her cheekbones, whatever. And I re-listened to Barbra Streisand, who was somebody that I kind of dismissed. She was kind of funny to me, or she was maybe too close to home. I thought she was corny. And Lee gave me a CD of hers for Hanukkah one year, and it was like, oh my God, she's amazing. Like it was a concert she had done when she was 19 years old, and she was phenomenal. So this is called Ode to Barbara. Of course, I love it that you refused a nose job. All us girls who were told we too could be beautiful and loved, if only we weren't, ourselves, owe you for standing up to the knife. You were afraid it might alter your voice. I loved your moxie as much or more than I loved your singing. To be honest, that dramatic vibrato reminded me of Brooklyn, each note rich and dripping with too much expression, the way my Nana and Uncle Saul would bring us a whole whitefish wrapped in oily paper twice a year when they visited, grease leaking through the layers, embarrassing, redolent, delicious. Which is how I felt about the over-the-topness of you, Barbara, who worked around the clock to get every note just right, sparing no one, least of all yourself, in your quest for perfection. And you made it. How many can brag about that? And yeah, I know they say you're a narcissist and a control freak. They can say whatever they want. But when I think about the shit we Jewish girls go through, and I consider how you always knew you were sexy and smart and had the nerve not to apologize for it, I contend that it's your right, nay, your sacred duty to be graced by flattering lights, to drip with diamonds and be wrapped in cashmere, to sing your giddy delight over having survived through the divine architecture of your dauntless nose. Yay. Yay, Barbara.
That was right on the nose.
Right on the nose. She really is phenomenal. Like, what she does is incredible. And this one is Karen Carpenter. I mean, I know I'm dating myself, and I don't care. This is she was big when I was a kid, and in the 70s, and I guess the late 60s. They were everywhere. The Carpenters were like on all the music, all the grocery stores, everywhere you went, you'd hear them. And I thought she was cool, and then when I got a little older, I realized she was not cool, so I stopped liking her. But then now I've listened to her again, and oh my God, what a vocal stylist. She's amazing. This is called Karen Carpenter, On Top of the World. My mother pushed the shopping cart at A&P, buying cream of mushroom soup and canned tuna, while I stood transfixed in the magazine section, reading the latest edition of Tiger Beat. The Carpenters were on the loudspeakers. They were everywhere that year, like air or water, especially Karen Carpenter, whose voice was as thrillingly deep and low as the hush inside a redwood grove, smooth as a swatch of velvet held against your cheek. The tabloids I read featured full-colored spreads of her and her brother in their matching Dutch boy haircuts, mouths open, singing like celestial twins in perfect harmony. I never guessed that she was shy, like me, that she would have preferred to hide behind her drum set rather than be displayed like an awkward doll. I didn't know she was criticized for her weight, or that she longed for a life off the road. Over the years, I noticed how she became thinner and thinner, collarbones and scapula jutting out. But still, this seemed to be part of the larger joke about them, how corny they were, how wholesome, how good, while the real artists were out getting drunk and trashing hotel rooms. She was truly good, no joke. She was superb. Her voice never cracked or faltered, no matter the pain. She never hit a sour note. She just kept crooning, mainlining comfort into our ears, right up to the very moment she up and disappeared. Part of what I was discovering as I was researching these different women artists, singers that I had admired and idolized was, the cost. I really hadn't factored in what it took for them to be doing what they did and how hard it was and how they got abused often by the music industry or on the road or whatever, and many of them suffered. This next one, again, political, is about the Ukrainian women. I don't know if you've ever heard their style of singing. It's like Kitka, it's that chest, like really intense, piercing, that style of singing got started like when people didn't have amplification. They didn't have microphones, right? They had to be heard. And they sang from village to village. Like one little group would be singing and in another remote village they would hear them. So it's like yodeling. It's very piercing. It's a sound that travels in, remote areas. So it's called Ukrainian Women Singing. If a song could pierce body armor, if it could penetrate the enemy's tanks, find them where they sit, hit their pounding hearts and unshaven faces. If a chorus of girls in embroidered aprons, arms linked, were a fierce wind with teeth in it, or the sharp edge of a knife blade held against the invader's throat, instead of the keening of women sweeping broken glass after the bomb blasts shattered the city. Someone has to do it. Someone has to pick through the rubble. Wheat fields and fields of sunflowers cratered with bombs, and still they are singing. Grandmothers with broad laps sing through the bitter night. Their remembered joy a rough whine, how they once welcomed the bridal party with close braided harmonies, how they yodeled to each other from distant hamlets in peacetime, with voices like brass bells ringing over green hills. Now their melody gleams and fumes like gas, and when they hurl homemade Molotov cocktails at advancing tanks, they throw their voices after them, heave the last of their heart's fire at the invaders, other mothers' sons, because someone has to do it. Someone has to fight to keep singing. I'm really moved, and I don't know, the invasion of Ukraine, for some reason it was just more personal than some of the other. I mean, there's all kinds of horrors going on, but for that one kind of hit home. And their fighting is so brave. I mean, the way the Ukrainians are just continuing to fight. I'm so proud of Zelensky. Yeah. Anyway, and then here's another poem that's about birth. I never gave birth, but I got a chance finally to witness a birth. And I stayed with my friend ended up being a really long labor. This poem was originally 21 pages long. Because it all seemed so important to me. Like every little thing was it was just sacred time, but it was also a really long time. And it was a hard time for her, especially, it didn't come easy and didn't come fast the way we had hoped. So this is called Birth. 3 a.m. and my friend's been in labor forever. I'm dozing upright on a stool by her hospital bed. For hours. It did feel like years at the time. For hours, we've been watching the rim of the skull crowning between her legs like a black sun, only to get sucked back inside again. My stomach's growling and my friend's eyes are sunk in her head. She's somewhere deep inside herself, unreachable. The first rays of what will become daylight begin to seep through slatted blinds. At 7, a nurse brings a tray of eggs and sausage for her husband. I wander out to the vending machines, but I'm too stupid tired to figure out how to swipe my card. Clock time has ceased for all of us. We're floating in amniotic eternity, like the baby waiting to be born. The picture of the Virgin Mary we taped to the wall last night when we were hopeful for a quick labor has come undone. At last, the doctor says it's now or we'll have to operate. And I watch my friend summon the last scrapings of her strength and push like God on the 5th day when she created mountains, the whole Sierra Nevada, say. And still it seems impossible right up to the moment when all at once the alien head corkscrews free of the slit, covered with vernix, and the comma of the curled up body follows, unfurling like a sea anemone, like a flag of the future. And it is actually a person. No, it is this particular person. Of course, we'd known she was in there all along, but to see her face as she roots around for the huge brown nipple is revelation and Genesis and the first time a human has discovered the world. I've tried to describe this to anyone who will listen, how all of us on earth have already passed through the gateway of the impossible just getting here. And still we don't get it, not really. And the newspapers are full of plane crashes and market crashes and the latest outrage. Well, every single day women do this thing. They turn their insides inside out, making people out of mucus and blood and hope, even as the world burns all around us, and no one, not a single soul, can fathom it. It was epic. I'm so glad I saw it. I'll never get over it. I meant to
Where's
say.
the 20-page
Do you still have the long version?
Well, the 21. It's in my computer. The 21-page version.
I'll listen to it all.
Oh my God. I mean, it was excruciating. There were so many different little moments, and when they came in to give her the epidural and that whole thing, and the epidural lady was like a whole trip. And I was also translating through the birth. I was there in the position as translator, and it was a hell of a thing. I'm so glad I did it, and I don't think I have it in me to do it again. I think I'm done.
Do they have a copy of it, the mother and the family?
They don't speak English as a first language. They speak Creole. So I could bring it to her and read it to her and, try to translate it for her into Creole. It would be a little, I haven't done that, but I could. Yeah, I should do that. This is called At Albany Ball with Elaine, another poem that kind of touches on the political situation, because all my friends and I are all, we talk about it all the time. I'm in little affinity political groups with several friends, and my friend Elaine has a couple dogs that I'm madly in love with. So this is called At Albany Bulb with Elaine. Side by side on a log by the bay, sunlight, unleashed dogs prancing through surf, almost exploding out of their skins with perfect happiness. Dogs who don't know about fired park rangers or canceled health research or tariff wars or the suicide hotline for veterans getting defunded, or. We've listed horror upon horror to each other for weeks now, and it does no good. So instead, I tell her how I held a 2-day-old baby in my arms, inhaling him like a fresh-baked loaf of bread, then watched as a sneeze erupted through his body like a tiny volcano. It was the look of pure astonishment on his face, as if he were Adam in the Garden of Eden making his debut a chew, as if it were the first sneeze that ever blew that got me. She tells me how her dog once farted so loudly he startled himself and fell off the bed where he'd been lolling. And then the two of us start to laugh so hard we almost fall off our own log. And this is our resistance for today, remembering original innocence. And they can't take it away from us. Though they ban our very existence, though they slash our rights to ribbons, we will have our mirth and our birthright gladness. Long after every unsold Tesla has vaporized and Earth has closed over even the names of these temporary tyrants, somewhere, some women like us will be sitting side by side facing the water, telling human stories and laughing still. So, how am I doing time-wise?
You're doing okay if you want to do something else. Sure.
I could do another one. I just don't want to wear y'all out.
One more.
All right, as long.
Pleasure.
Okay, as long as I'm not wearing you out, because that would. Well, some people say that they need a little, Good. I'm glad you feel that way. I think I will read this one as a tribute to Ella Fitzgerald, who is, of course, inimitable. You can't, I've listened to her albums many times, and you just can't capture what she does. It's evergreen. It's ever fresh. Every time I hear her, it sounds like she's just, alive in the moment. So this is called Ella Scatting. I can't paint the spots on a ladybug's back or capture the radiance of a cloud of fireflies. I can't describe what Ella does if I listen to her do it 1,000 times, which I have. I'm just a mere mortal singing along, trying to catch up to her swing, a nanosecond too early, a breath too late. Sometimes you run for the bus as it's pulling out of the stop and someone yells to the driver and you climb aboard, panting. Sometimes it leaves you to wait on an empty street for an hour or the rest of your life. Then there's Ella, scatting like a girl playing hopscotch up and down the scale, so effortlessly, so joyously, so definitively that what can one do but point? Holy brilliance, where did you come from? Even if it all goes by too quickly to fathom, the way light flickering through a prism breaks and scatters in rainbows the cat chases to no avail. Might as well chase your own tail. Might as well hang out in slack-jawed awe at the way one scrappy sperm manages to make its fated rendezvous with a singular egg, or a flock of starlings rises all together in swooping figure eights, or a homeless, motherless girl in a dirty dress climbs on stage at the Apollo, opens her mouth, and lets the whole galaxy pour forth.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah, that's whoa for Ella, for sure. And to go from the sublime to the not so sublime, there's my own kind of journey with singing, which has been, good and hard. And one of the things I've really struggled with has been this tendency for a vibrato where I don't want it. Like vibrato, for anybody who doesn't know, it's like the it vibrates. Your voice vibrates, and sometimes it's a beautiful thing, and people love it. And but you kind of have to. It has to be under control. Forgive me, I have to find this. I thought I had it. 22. This is the first section. Should remember that. So I've been taking voice lessons, and my voice teacher is really a proponent of pure tone, which means no vibrato. So I've been trying to learn how to do that and not doing a very good job of it. So this is called my vibrato. My singing teacher says uncontrolled vibrato is insecurity wearing a frilly blouse, like the upspeak of a nervous student, peppering everything she says with kind of and He says, commit to each note like you mean it. And I agree. I want to make a pure tone without apology or wavering or bleeding like a nanny goat. But as I ascend past G and then A into the attic of my upper register, I feel things begin to throb, and not in a good way. Here comes my vibrato, like a teetering pile of red jello, or a drunken ex-girlfriend at the wedding, smeared lipstick and too much perfume. And yes, I'm embarrassed to be wobbling around like a little girl wearing her mother's high heels, but doesn't everything on earth vibrate with a mortal shudder? Candle flickers, moonlight shivers the pond, and even long-dead stars pulsate in their inky firmament. It's only the angels who do not sweat or bleed, whose pudenda are smooth as Barbie dolls, whom you'll find singing hosannas forever, each note steady as a laser beam, never trembling or flinching. Thank you.